Hello, everybody, and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm T.
And I'm Blondie. So, T, how was your vacation?
I finally went on that darn vacation that I kept talking about over and over. It's over now. You guys don't have to hear about it anymore.
Woof!
I know, right? Everybody's like, we need a vacation from your vacation.
Hello.
It was absolutely a dream vacation. We had a wonderful time. I mean, you know, there's always a couple of little snags in your plans, but we started off in Spain and we stayed there for a couple of days before we got on a cruise. And I got this hotel that I thought was going to be really nice, right? It's where Picasso used to live. Sounds pretty schmancy. And,
Bougie.
you know, I know, right? And historical, which is my jam. We got all these great ratings and I spent a little extra and I thought, okay, this is going to be fantastic. Well, we get there after being in the air for umpteen hours and we're tired. And of course, we didn't sleep the night before getting everything ready. And we go and there's just like this one door that you knock on and, you know, you have to like ring a bell. It's very odd. It's not like a open hotel. It's not the Holiday Inn. Okay. So we're like, all right, you know, and then she asks you who you are and and you have to give her the confirmation number. And we're very tired. This lady comes down and we walk into this foyer that's probably all of 8 feet wide by 3 feet long. That didn't come out right. 3 feet wide by 8 feet long. Like, that sounds weird. and you just can't even go the other way. You just have to go straight up these concrete spiral stairs. And we're standing there with our luggage like, where's the elevator? And there's no elevator. This is a legit old building. So I'm like, okay, you know me, I'm like, okay, spiral stairs. Very cute. I'm all down with it. I'm kind of tired, but whatever. Well, we are on the 3rd floor. We have all our luggage with us. My husband does not find this charming in the slightest. He's looking at me like, are you kidding me right now? And I'm like, you're going to carry the heavy bags, okay? With a smile on your face.
He would have taken the Holiday Inn.
Oh, definitely. Well, it gets better. So we finally get to our room, which was funny because we get to the top. Each level has, you know, like a
landing.
Like a landing. Thank you. And then you go left or right. So we went left and she opens the door and there's this nice area that's got like this built-in benches with pillows and there's like a little waterfall. And I'm like, wow, this is a nice room. No, it's the common area for like 4 rooms. And then we get to our little room in the corner and she opens the door and it's just like one big room and a bathroom and a small closet. Very European, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, cool, whatever. We're tired. We just want to get some sleep. So we start to put all our stuff down. Bathroom's beautiful. Go into the bedroom. Bedroom's very nice. Looking around, my husband immediately notices what's missing in the room. There's no TV. So he's like, where's the TV? You were looking for somewhere schmancy. Is it going to come out of the wall? Does it come out of the edge of the bed?
You do realize you said this was where Picasso lived, right?
Yeah, but does he still live there? I mean, come on.
They're maintaining the history.
Yeah, but maybe somebody in those great reviews should have mentioned that there's no elevators and it's a spiral stone staircase and there's no TV. I don't know. I mean, we're American. This is not how we do things.
You know that those people that wrote the reviews are over there snickering, going, you know, people are going to get up there and go, why didn't they write this?
Exactly.
They're laughing at you.
Stupid Americans don't know how to enjoy culture. They just want to watch TV.
That's right.
Which is true. It's very true. But, you know, you and I would have been fine with that. We'd have found that rather charming as well. But hubby didn't find it charming. Not at all.
Didn't we stay in a place in Italy that didn't have a TV? We were in like Montecatini
Terme.
No.
You know what's funny? I don't even remember if it had a TV or not.
I don't even know if we looked.
You and I are not there to watch TV.
No.
So it's not a thing for us. Just like that. It's a perfect example. I don't even remember looking for a TV there.
I don't either.
And by the time we leave and come back, we're exhausted. Nobody's watching TV. Oh, no, not hubby. He was not happy. His very first impression of Europe was not a good one. But, you know, then, of course, the next day we got out and about and he loved it. But, yeah, it was kind of funny. I laughed about it because he was just looking at me like, are you serious right now? Have you lost your mind?
You just need to distract him with his second favorite, food.
I thought you were going to say me, but you are correct. It is food.
I know better.
Yes, you do.
Maybe next time he'll plan it himself.
Yeah, let's go with that.
That'll teach him.
No, that'll teach me.
You'll end up at a Holiday Inn.
Oh man, I'm telling you. But it was a wonderful time, much needed,
Glad you're back. Safe and sound.
safe and sound. And those airplane rides aren't getting easier, let me tell you. I was middle seating it the whole time. And the sucky part is I actually had window and aisle seats, but because I'm nice, sometimes, believe it or not, I gave those to my husband.
But the question is, did they have TVs in the seats?
They did. So he was very happy as long as he wasn't in the middle. I did have the window seat on the way back, and he assumed he was going to get that window seat. And I looked at him and I said, nah, it's my turn. I'm getting the window seat. Okay. No more of squishing me up in the middle. I'm out.
Now you know how I feel. I always get the middle seat, so you can have the window seat.
I know.
You love me.
I do. But okay. So you know what pissed me off? Because I like the window seat because I actually like to look out the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not looking out the window. He just wants the space and he's closing the window. So even I can't look out the window being in the middle. And I'm like, dude, that is so selfish. He doesn't travel with me the way you travel with me. You get me.
I get you.
Yeah,
So
you do.
hard. It's not even funny.
Yeah, you do. He's like, window seat, close the window. I'm like, no, what is wrong with you? Jeez.
You married him. He's
Oh.
all yours, sweet cheeks.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, glad to be back. What's our story about this week?
This week is actually a story about, I want to say true love, but then it could also be a story of obsession and addiction.
Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two, right?
Exactly. I guess it depends on if you're in the relationship or if you're on the outside looking in.
Much easier to see from the outside looking in.
Okay, well, let's get our grim on.
Let's do this.
It's summer 1995. Zack Bowen and his dad take off for a road trip from California, going across the country, and they land in New Orleans. Zack loved New Orleans and decided to stay when his dad traveled on.
First of all, you didn't say that right. It's Nolans. Hello.
My bad.
And now I'm hungry for beignets and voodoo. All your fault.
You know what? I knew you were going to say that.
No, you didn't.
I actually do love New Orleans. New Orleans, sorry.
Nolans. Yeah, me too. It was cool.
So 17-year-old Zack was described as very charming, funny, charismatic, and had a great personality. He got a job at a bar where he met Lana, a dancer from Texas. She said that he was gorgeous, easygoing, and fun. They had developed feelings for each other and started a relationship pretty quickly. So quickly that she ended up getting pregnant.
Well, there goes her dancing career.
I'd say so. About this time, Lana finds out that Zack was 17 years old when they got together, which shouldn't be an issue, but she was 27. How do you not know how old he is?
Yeah, and forget the age. That's too big of a maturity difference for her not to have a clue that he's still a kid.
Well, unless she's immature.
That could very well be, but she's got 10 years on him. I mean, you can tell when people haven't lived life as an adult.
After she found out his age, she said that she was going to have the baby, but didn't want anything from him. He could be in the baby's life or not. It was up to him. She didn't want to put that kind of responsibility on a child, so Lana broke up with him.
She still contributed to making that child a teenage dad, so it's not like having him in or out as a father is going to help.
True. But having a family excited Zack, so he proposed to Lana and she ecstatically accepted. What happened to not wanting to put that kind of responsibility on a child?
Exactly. Lana, you don't fix having a kid by marrying another kid.
The two got married, and at the time he was 19 and she was 28. They were very happy, very much in love, according to Lana.
I'm pretty sure she was in love, but he was probably in lust.
Big time.
Yeah, right?
His mother wasn't very happy about the marriage. She said it was never Zack's plan. He wanted to be an English teacher. I guess it was the New Orleans magic that draws you in. As they are living their best life, Lana gets pregnant again and they have another child. Having a family to support, Zack decides to join the army. He is deployed to Iraq and Kosovo, where he makes sergeant. However, he had a rough time with the hostile environment. He said, "All they want to do is kill you." He took it exceptionally hard when his best friend was killed by a bomb. So just a little fact, his best friend was a woman. Not that I have a problem with that. I just thought it was a little interesting tidbit.
That is interesting, but I've had guy besties, and I liked having access to the brutally honest male perspective.
And they have no filter. They'll tell you exactly.
No, they do not. I think I told you this. My one guy friend said, "You're like a dude with boobs." You know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, well, I could say he's like a chick with.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be wrong.
So after she was killed, he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, and was just full of crazy emotions, things he couldn't control. He also made friends with an Iraqi boy, and when the insurgents found out, they killed the entire family.
Aww.
Right? I saw somewhere that they bombed the family store. Well, they were all in there.
I honestly don't know how some people made it out of there with their heads on straight in any capacity, because that's so traumatizing. God bless them.
I don't know how any person makes it out of any war with their heads on straight.
There's definitely scars, some more visible than others.
Zack got his wish and was able to return home. However, because of his problems, and I'm assuming those were issues after his friends were killed, and despite a recommendation from his commanding officer to receive an honorable discharge, he was released with a general discharge. Zack was very bitter.
So, do you happen to know exactly what the difference is between the two?
I believe a general discharge is a satisfactory service or satisfactory performance and will be based on their conduct or unacceptable behavior, where an honorable discharge is mostly given, and that is for good to excellent service. If you are generally discharged, you still get the benefits, but it doesn't look good on their record. It's like you could tell something went wrong for them not to receive an honorable discharge.
It sounds like benefit-wise, it's the same, but, if you serve your country, you don't want to have anything that doesn't say you didn't do it well.
Right, and I think that's what he was bitter about.
Yeah, I get it now.
When Zack returned home, he suffered from severe PTSD. Lana said that he was different, emotionless, and wasn't the man that she married. So the two split. He took everything to heart and believed that things that didn't work out in his life were a complete personal failure. So the general discharge was just something else to add to it.
Right.
Zack is now 27 and separated. So he decided to start again and becomes a carefree, hey, how you doing kind of guy. He got a job working the graveyard shift at a bar in the French Quarter. He even does things like magic tricks, which from what I understand was a big draw, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. But Zack's attention was fixed on one special person. Her name was Addie Hall. Addie worked at the same place as Zack, but the shift after his. She came to New Orleans to start a new life. Her life growing up wasn't the greatest, and I saw that she was abused, and so no wonder she wanted to start a new life. She was super creative, a lot like T, one of the things I'm jealous about.
I secretly love that you're jealous.
I know you do. Addie was also kind and intelligent. She was a painter, wrote poetry, designed costumes. She was a dancer and even won awards as a dance instructor.
Geez, it's like she's my twin flame or something.
Well, you do realize I said I was jealous before I said she was kind and intelligent. Zack had this opposites attract thing happening. He was the military type and she was the free-spirited hippie type. He would tell her bar jokes or show her bar tricks. She just thought he was a big cheese ball and said that he was too much of a people pleaser. Zack started to go after Addie, but she was not interested in him at all. Ex-military wasn't her type. That didn't deter him, though. He was nice and charming, trying to win her over. Then one night, after her shift, the two started talking and connecting over Jägermeister. I mean, what a thing to connect over. Have you ever had Jaeger?
I don't know. You would know if I've had Jaeger or not.
Well, it's the one that tastes like black licorice. And I don't like black licorice, so I don't like the way it tastes.
Yeah, if it's black licorice, even if I tried it, I'm sure I didn't like it because that's not my favorite flavor.
Yeah, not my thing.
I'm guessing not my thing either.
So however it happened, the two started to become close and were sharing things about their lives. Zack said he met his soulmate, but he failed to mention that he was separated from his wife and that he had 2 children. Addie was furious when she found out, but was also in love with him at this point, so they continued their relationship. While things were brewing with Addie and Zack, something else was brewing, a massive hurricane in the Gulf. Hurricane Katrina is building strength and headed right for New Orleans.
Look at you doing a hurricane story during peak hurricane season. Did you plan that?
Yeah, it came in like a hurricane. That's actually a song.
Yeah, I know. You go, girl.
Businesses begin to close in preparation. People are evacuating, and Lana, Zack's ex-wife, is scared. She had no vehicle to evacuate and is worried about being alone with their children during the hurricane. So she calls Zack and asks him to come stay with them. Addie was also scared and hysterical about the storm, and she didn't want Zack to go be with Lana and his kids. He tells Lana that he is going to stay with Addie. Zack and Addie hunker down in Addie's apartment and wait for the hurricane to hit land. On August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit with huge, loud, and powerful gusts of wind, terrifying rains that sounded like a train rushing past with gruesome screams. When it's done, 80% of the city is underwater. About 200,000 houses were destroyed, and more than 1,800 people died. A couple of facts. There were reports of close to 130 people still missing, and bodies were still being recovered in the rubble 1 year later. Hurricane Katrina was the costliest natural disaster in history at $160 billion.
I will never forget seeing the devastation of that hurricane on TV. I cried, as I'm sure the whole nation did. It was just so sad.
It was terrible. And my husband and I went years later to New Orleans and went on one of the tours that showed you where the devastation was, and you could see where the water lines were on the houses, and they talked about what people did during that time. It was horrific.
I went many years after, and there was still the water lines there. I saw them as well. Really sad.
That puts everything in perspective, I think.
It does. When you think of that water line, from that point below, everything was under. It's insane.
So I was going to say now back to Addie and Zack, but they are off the radar. Lana continued to call to see if Zack had made it through the storm, but her calls went unanswered, and her fears that Zack didn't survive the hurricane were freaking her out. Both Addie and Zack did survive without any injury. The French Quarter, where Addie's apartment was, had no electricity, no lights. It was in ruins. But for some strange reason, it drew them closer to each other, and their love grew. They seemed to thrive and created a little community with the survivors in the quarter. They would help others clean up, have little parties, and even cook in the streets. They became very tight-knit and even had a sense of family. It was a romantic adventure for Zack and Addie. It was a very exciting time with no bills, no authority figures, just them and a community of survivors. In the excitement, Zack was forgetting about his family, who had been looking for him. The pair enjoyed their time among the ruins of New Orleans, even having sex in the streets. The tragedy seemed to be their silver lining.
Wow. And you know what? When Zack's family is looking for him to make sure he's okay, how come he's not looking for them? I mean, he's got a couple kids,
He was just wrapped up with Addie.
I mean, that's pretty wrapped up. It's ridiculously wrapped up. And I can understand their love growing in the midst of this tragedy, but who the hell is having sex on the ruins of the streets? There's no bathrooms, no showers, and no privacy.
That might have been the draw.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
The two gained media attention partly because Addie would bare her breast to the police driving by. A TV crew came out to interview them. Zack asked one of the crew if he could use his phone. He called his mom to let him know he was fine and actually having a good time, especially with the TV crews interviewing them and taking pictures. Zack and Addie had become the popular and heroic couple that survived Hurricane Katrina. They were definitely enjoying their notoriety. Lana was still trying to find out any information about Zack. Since she wasn't able to reach him over the phone because there was no communication, she went to the Red Cross and put his name into the database. And guess what popped up? A picture of him barbecuing and having drinks. I think that would be a feeling of relief and then anger. I mean, can you imagine? What do you mean you're fine sitting there queuing up some chicken and having a cold one while I'm losing my mind thinking my kids don't have a father anymore?
I'm not trying to be a jerk right now, but she did marry a child. I mean, what did she really expect from him?
Well, what did I say, was 27, 28? He was supposedly supposed to be a man at this point.
Yeah, supposed to be, but he's not acting like one.
As the city is starting to rebuild, Addie and Zack, deep down inside, are hoping that it doesn't get back to normal. The chaos that made them fall deeper in love was the place that only had room for the two of them. About a month after the hurricane, electricity was restored and things started to come back to life, and their little fantasy world is changing. The time of them not having to work, being able to party every day, and them being the center of attention is over. Isn't there a Willie Nelson song called The Party's Over? Goes something like, turn out the lights, the party's over. But I guess in this case, it would be, turn on the lights, the party's over.
The exact opposite. I don't know about Willie Nelson, but Donna Summer did that dim all the lights, which was disco. And for that reason, obviously way cooler than Willie.
I don't mind Willie Nelson, but I will take Donna Summers over him.
Any day of the week.
Nothing is stopping the repair of the city, so they are going to have to deal with life again, starting with Lana and Zack's children. Lana finally got a hold of Zack, and they met up. She was telling him she needed help. Her job wasn't paying the bills, and they decided that Zack would have his kids every other weekend. Addie wasn't a fan of Lana or her demands.
Wow. Zack is just not meant to be a father, and I can totally see why Zack and Addie are soulmates. They're both ridiculously inconsiderate and self-centered.
They definitely have personalities.
Let's go with that.
As things slowly return to normal, Zack and Addie are broke and need to get jobs to survive. Zack gets a job at a market, and Addie starts working at a bar as a bartender. The owner of the bar said she was really good at it, and because she was a pretty lady, she knew how to bring in the customers. So for a frame of reference, the owner was an older woman. Addie and she became close to the point that she called her daughter, and Addie called her mama.
Interesting.
The more the city was being rebuilt, the more Addie and Zack's relationship started to fall apart. They wanted their outlaw fantasy world back, and it was gone, so the two started fighting. Slowly things got even worse. They were casual drug users before the hurricane, but now they had gotten more into it and began to drink a lot. Someone said they were looking for that high that they experienced during that month after the hurricane.
This missing the chaos after the devastation life is definitely a different perspective that I never would have even fathomed people would be into.
Well, she was the hippie type, and he was looking for the person to bring him out of his military shell, I guess.
You don't have to have complete chaos to be a hippie.
True. With everything going on, Zack's demons came back to haunt him. He never got over what happened in Iraq, and depression set in, but he never showed that side to anyone. Zack also became crazy jealous of Addie. I guess Addie would dance on the bar Coyote Ugly style to entertain the customers. Zack would lose it, claiming the customers were flirting with her. She loved him, but it would irritate her. The owner of the bar said, quote, I used to tell him this is a business, She had to make tips and had to make customers happy. That was her living. Zack didn't see it that way, end quote. I'm a little conflicted about this. The owner was right that she needed to make tips, but dancing on the bar, I can see why he was jealous.
I can see why he's jealous too, but it's definitely not something I would choose. But if that's what she wanted or needed to do to make a living, it's her body. It's her choice, and he should have respected her decision.
I think at this point, neither one of them are in their right minds.
No, it's not an excuse, though. He's just
No,
trying
it's
to
not.
control her.
You're going to love this. The drinking and the drugs was enhancing Zack's anger, so in retaliation for Addie doing her thing, Zack starts sneaking around and having one-night stands. 'Cause, that'll show her and make her come running into his arms. But I guess that's drunken high logic talking.
And you talk about a double standard. I mean, she's just flirting for tips, not sleeping with anybody. I don't think this guy's ever going to grow up.
I don't think so either. Strangely, though, Addie does become jealous, but she says she's going to break up with him. They get into a colossal fight, and Zack hits her. But sadly, it won't be the last time. Addie told a friend who asked about her bruises that when they drink too much, they would fight.
Ray Charles saw that one coming.
The next day, Zack bought an Amtrak ticket to Washington State. He left a note for Addie that said he was gone for good. They were both hurting. Their obsession for each other was out of control. They would spend every minute they could on the phone with each other, and after 2 weeks, Zack came back to New Orleans to be with Addie. So much for good.
Yeah, no bueno. And it's sad to hear him say he came back for Addie and didn't say anything about coming back for his kids.
Addiction went hand in hand with their obsession. 2 days after Zack returned, they were drinking and using just as much as they did before. Their fighting also returned, but got worse. Besides arguing, they would say and do terrible things to each other. Their friends couldn't take it and started to back away from them. They were breaking up on a regular basis. At one point, it was like every 24 hours. One time, Addie locked Zack out of the house. He started banging on the door and screaming. She called the police on him, and he got arrested.
These people couldn't be more toxic if they tried.
Their relationship was a dangerous one. They couldn't be together, but they couldn't be apart. Zack told her that if he couldn't have her, no one else would. The owner of the bar called it graveyard love. I guess there's no further explanation needed.
Nope.
While all of this was going on, Zack is still going out and cheating. However, a strange turn of events. Zack has a tryst with a man. I know that came out of nowhere, but it was said Zack did describe himself as bisexual.
What the? Okay.
I'm assuming it was okay with Addie as long as he didn't act on it, but since he did, she was insulted and couldn't accept it. Apparently, she is homophobic. She felt that Zack betrayed her and she wanted to get back at him. She wanted out. A twist of luck. Zack and Addie have to move because Addie has a dispute with her landlord. A dispute with all the drinking, drugs, screaming and yelling and banging on the door. I would want them out too.
Yeah, that's not a mystery.
Zack found a place for them to live, and because he was doing well at his job, he put down the deposit. It was a studio apartment above a voodoo temple.
Only them, right? What are the chances?
Let's just add more onto this pile.
And I bet the rent was eerily cheap.
Oh, wah, dad jokes. I know I said a twist of luck. This is where it comes in for Addie. She tells the landlord to draw up the lease and put it in her name. Zack finds out, called the landlord, and told him that Addie was kicking him out. Addie was throwing his belongings out the door, screaming, cussing, and causing a scene. She was also yelling out that Zack was having sex with other men and he is gay. She was saying everything she could to cause him pain. Zack was humiliated by the entire scene. He tells her to stop, to shut up. He puts his hands around her neck, and to his horror, he strangles her. Okay, take it back. It wasn't lucky for Addie.
No, it wasn't. And I'm a little surprised that Zack is so sensitive about being with other men information. He did call himself bisexual.
He did, but I don't think it was known.
Interesting.
Zack wonders what to do. Does he stay? Does he run? He did neither. He delves into the macabre. He sees Addie's journal on the table and begins to write in it. He explained what happened on October 5th. They were fighting over the apartment and her wanting to kick him out. She wouldn't shut up, so he strangled her. Zack then picked her up, moved her into the bedroom, and somewhere between rage and lust, he had sex with her several times before passing out next to her. Now, there were a couple of reports that said he wrote about this in his journal, and there was another claim that said police adamantly denied it happened.
He's pretty far gone at this point, though, so who knows? It's pretty disturbing.
He would have been the only one to know, and we'll never know. Addie's boss tried to get a hold of her for a few days, but she never answered her phone or called back. She felt it was strange that she hadn't heard from her. After a few days, Addie's body began to decompose. The New Orleans heat and humidity didn't help. Zack moved her into the bathtub and turned the air conditioner to like 60 degrees. He made another entry in the journal that was more of a question: how to dispose of a corpse.
You know, just the fact that he's writing this crazy stuff in a journal, all self-incriminating, just proves that he's completely out of his mind at this point.
Zack starts to call friends and tells them that Addie left him and went back to North Carolina, that he's going to take a vacation. He didn't go into work for about 3 days, and no one could get a hold of him. He did run into a friend who said he looked awful, like he'd been on a crazy bender. After seeing this friend, Zack actually does go on a bender. He was abusing cocaine and alcohol. He was hanging out at strip clubs and indulging in random sex.
What happened to that nice kid?
He did reach out to his ex, Lana, saying he wanted to party with her. She asked about Addie. He told her that she was driving him crazy. He drove her out of town and that she's back home. The good thing is they didn't get together.
Well, thank goodness for that.
You never know what he would have done.
Yeah, and you know, he's got 2 kids that he apparently never thinks about.
So sad.
I know. He reaches out to his ex just to party, not like, hey, how are the kids doing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Still journaling, he writes about the 28 cigarette burns on his arm, explaining it's one for every year of his life. He's free-falling hard. Zack decides to go to a rooftop bar and have a couple drinks. The bartender notices he's wandering back and forth. Thinking he might leave, the bartender looks for him to settle his tab, but he has disappeared. On October 17, 2006, the New Orleans Police Department got a call from the Omni Royal Orleans Hotel explaining there was a man's body on the roof of the parking garage.
I had a really bad feeling about this.
When the police arrived, they see a man's body severely mangled, and it is clear he died on impact. The investigators searched the body looking for ID, and in the man's pocket, they find a note that says, "This is not accidental. I had to take my own life to pay for the one I took. If you sent a patrol to 826 North Rampart, you will find the dismembered corpse of my girlfriend Addie in the oven, on the stove, and in the fridge, along with full documentation on both of us and a full signed confession from myself, Zack Bowen."
Okay, wait a minute. When did he dismember her? And you know, after hearing what he wrote, he's not too far gone. That's a very well-written letter.
Well, he had a moment of clarity. The detective rushes to the apartment, and what he finds is worse than he could have ever imagined. There was spray paint all over the walls with haunting messages of pain and regret like, "I'm such a loser. Please help me stop the pain. I'm sorry I couldn't finish. And please call my wife." Looking into the kitchen, there were spray-painted arrows pointing down to the oven. On the stove, there were 2 pots. One of them had hands and feet that looked like they had been cooked. In the other pot was a human head that had also been cooked, so much so that the skin and hair were peeling back from the skull, and it was unrecognizable. Inside the oven, there was a roasting pan that contained legs and arms that were charred from being cooked. On a side note, one account said that the limbs were seasoned and there were carrots and potatoes cut up on the counter next to the stove, which of course would imply that Zack was a cannibal besides everything else. But an autopsy was done, which concluded he didn't have any human remains in his stomach.
Jeez, that is so disturbing.
That's a lot.
I know, I'm like, oh. But, you know, she had been dead for a while at this point. So maybe what he had eaten was already digested before he went on the bender. I mean, seasonings, carrots, and potatoes, that kind of says otherwise.
The whole thing was 12 days. And I don't know when he actually started to cook her. I mean, he's the only one that can answer that question. She'd been around for a while decomposing. But you're right. It could have been.
Yeah, and he obviously wrote his very clear-minded note and confession after this process. Because he's already got her in all the pots, and he says that. So I don't know what this guy was thinking.
Well, and that's one of the messages. He said, I'm sorry I couldn't finish. I think that's what that pertained to.
What's he talking about? Finishing,
Finishing
her?
Yeah.
Like eating her, or?
Finishing his plan of disposing of the body.
Carrots and potatoes is not disposing of the body.
But he didn't eat them.
Yeah, I'm not on board with that at all. I mean, he's seasoned. Yeah. Anyway, pretty gross.
So let's continue.
I know. My head's just like, ew.
The fridge was next, and inside the fridge was a large plastic bag with a torso in it. Soon after, they find Addie's journal and all of Zack's plans and his descent into madness. He was trying to figure out a way to dispose of the body, so he decided to cook the remains down so that it wouldn't smell and the meat would peel off the bones. The detective said this was one of the most disturbing scenes he had ever encountered.
This whole visual is making me seriously want to hurl. It's yuck.
And I actually saw some of the pictures. I didn't see pictures of her, but I saw the pots and things when I watched the show.
Yuck.
Lana was in disbelief when she got the call from the coroner. He told her that Zack was dead and he had killed Addie. Lana thought that they had been in a car accident or something. It never occurred to her what the truth really was. Zack's mother couldn't understand. She said he was a great kid and that everyone loved him, but his experiences in Iraq traumatized him. Not saying that this isn't true. I'm absolutely sure he did have PTSD, but I think maybe this was her way of coping with what her son had done.
I agree with you completely. And each situation is so different, but the fact that he was doing drugs definitely exacerbated his trauma issues, and the drugs were definitely his choice.
I mean, absolutely. And maybe that was his way of coping. There are a couple of theories of why Zack killed Addie that go beyond their crazy love affair with the drugs and alcohol sprinkled in. Some believe it was a demonic presence that came from the voodoo shop that influenced Zack.
I can see how people there would totally buy into that, but I don't know about that, but I'm sure it didn't help. Let's put it that way.
Some believe that his experiences from his 2 tours of duty that were buried deep inside caught up to him. Addie was known to be a mean and abusive drunk, which caused him to snap. Whatever the reason and what he did after caused him to descend into a place of mania and true remorse. Less than a decade later, a woman named Mary Voodoo Queen Millen leased the Voodoo Temple on Rampart Street and opened Bloody Mary Haunted Museum and Tour. She would charge visitors a fee for a tour that would include the apartment above the temple. It still had the spray-painted walls, the oven, and the fridge that Zack used, plus some horrific decorations. They said there was blood splatters and the bride and groom Chucky dolls.
Were those dolls their dolls?
I have no idea.
Or were they placed there?
I think they were just placed there.
I hate to say it, but murder sells, as we well know.
Millen received a lot of scrutiny about the tours. They were calling it despicable and atrociously exploitative. She defended it by saying, quote, "It would be stupid to pretend that the couple weren't here. Detractors are jealous that they didn't do this first," end quote. She bowed to local pressure and took the mention of the Bowen Hall crime scene off her website.
Well, think about it. She's never going to be able to rent that place out with that killer history. And it's not like she killed anybody. So the only way for her to make money is to exploit that terrible situation that she had absolutely nothing to do with. A storage unit might have been a less controversial idea, but you can't blame her for needing the income from that apartment in some way.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, she didn't have to lease it to begin with.
No, she didn't, but I'm sure she's got a mortgage. She's got to make the payment on it.
Was this a true love story that turned deadly? Or was it obsession and addiction? We will never know. He was her muse. She was his extreme desire for a more free way of life. Drugs and alcohol, deceit, lies, betrayal, cheating, and troubled minds were the potion for a turbulent and murderous romance.
Wow, that one was really dark.
A little bit of a roller coaster with little sideshows.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like ping, ping, a little bit here and there. Crazy story.
It was sad, but it was crazy.
And the way you told it, I could totally visualize everything in my head as we went along. I know what they look like. I know where they lived, and I've never seen these people. Great story. Thank you for bringing that to us.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And we want to thank you all for listening. Take care, have fun, and don't forget to let your grimaginations run wild. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. We would just like to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send us your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram @grimwitwithdimwits, X @grimwitwithdimwits, and Facebook grimwitwithdimwits. And please join us every Monday for new episodes and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
And we would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review. 5-star ratings go a long way and they would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.